the summer of love.
What's up everybody, it's Bro here, and today we are back for another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. And for today's deck profile, we're doing Magical Musket. This is a deck that has really been trying to top at almost every single one of the big events we've had. Some of them, they've secured that spot, but for the most part, they end up falling short, only being able to make it to day 2 of tournaments, or to that, like right below whatever the topping amount is. But nonetheless, it is a really good deck and probably one of the best rogue decks of this format, because it can consistently get to the point that it does. It's just it can't seem to consistently get tops. So nonetheless, though, it is a really good deck. It focuses around being able to activate all of your cards from, or not all of your, but like your spells and traps from your hand, even on your opponent's turn, so that you basically are always in a controlling position. So without further ado, let's get into this deck profile. So they all allow you to do that, by the way, what I just mentioned, so I'm not going to read that effect off. Also, all of them have an effect if a spell or trap card is activated in the same column as them. So this guy, he's just the Stratos. He adds a magical musket other than the card that was used to activate this effect. So you could add any of your magical muskets, because more likely than not you're going to be using one of your other spells to trigger off his effect. We also have 3 Kid Brave. He is the draw power for this archetype. You can discard a magical musket to draw 2 cards. That's really good because we run quite a few copies of magical musket cards, taking up, I do believe, over half the deck is magical musket cards, so we have a lot of fuel for this guy. And then we have our 2 Starfire, which she can special summon a level 4 lower magical musket from your hand in defense position. This is good for extending plays and getting more effects on the board to be able to get to your winning board quicker. And then next, of course, we have our 2 Doc, which he can add a magical musket from your graveyard to your hand. So this is just replenishment, the healer, I guess. So yeah, he's really good for getting those spells and traps back, because you're going to be going through your spells and traps quite a bit because of Caspar. Alright, now moving on to our hand traps, we have 3 Ogre. It's the best hand trap of the format, just because Pendulum Magicians are running around. It just makes it so that Ghost Ogre, you can just throw it onto their Electromite after they commit to it, and now they don't have a play anymore. So it's just super good for that. Once again, I apologize for doing Ash Blossoms in all of my recent videos instead of the Ogres, because I had not caught up with the fact that Ogre was better. I was still stuck. I was still being stubborn, thinking that Ash was the best one just because it's more expensive. And speaking of Ash, we do also run Ash, 3 copies of it, because, well, it might not be so good in the Pendulum matchup. If you're going against Pendulum FTK, it is better, as well as any of your other decks. This format do a lot of searching, so if you know when to Ash, you can hit the deck pretty hard. And moving on, we have our Raigeki. Just as just a board wipe, super good in this deck, because it's also going to pop off one of your magical musket cards. And then one of the win conditions, in a sense, is Ties to the Brethren, or Ties Out of the Brethren, rather. So you basically target a monster you control, pay 2,000 life points, and then you can't special monsters for the rest of the turn. You can't have your battle phase this turn, but you can special summon 2 monsters with different names but the same attribute, type, and level as that monster. So you're going to be using this on your level 3s. So you'd say you have Caspar, you'd activate Ties of the Brethren, and now you'd have a Starfire and a Doc, and that sort of can just win you the game there. Alright, moving on to our magical musket spells, we have 3 Cross Domination. It can deal with problematic monsters because it sets their attack and defense to 0 and it negates their effects. So any face-up monster that has a negate, like Tornado Dragon, I think, or no, it's Vortex Dragon, my bad, in the Pendulum deck, right? So when the Vortex Dragon would go to activate its effect, you could chain this from your hand, and then they no longer have that Vortex negate. So it's sort of a pseudo win as well, because if you can keep popping this effect off, having all of the negates going will just end up leaving your opponent in a bad situation. We also have 2 steady hands. People apparently run it at 1 or 3. Personally, I think it's great at 2. So you can target a monster, a magical musket, and double its original attack and defense until the end of the turn, but it can't attack directly. I like this because it helps get over something. Also, it's another thing to just pop into your columns. So I think it's a really good card for that reason. Then we have our 3 scapegoats, because this deck doesn't have a lot of attack in it, so we need to be able to go into some higher attack link monsters to secure our win. And scapegoat is the way we do it. We also have 2 Pot of Desires because we run 3 of all of the important cards in this deck, so Pot of Desires is not a problem here. And then for our last draw card, I do believe we have Upstart Goblin. So it's just a draw 1 card. It makes the deck a 39 card deck. It's really good. We have our 3 Bottomless Trap Hole. In my opinion, it's the best summon negate right now. Just being able to banish your opponent's monsters is so convenient because Monster Reborn is in the format now. So if you can banish things, it's better than having them in the graveyard, because a lot of people are running a Monster Reborn because it is a really good card, and Bottomless Trap Hole gets around that. So I prefer this over the strikes and everything right now, just because Soul Charge and Monster Reborn are a thing, and there's so many decks that revolve around using their graveyard now. So Bottomless Trap Hole, a definite 3 of, since this is more of a control stall deck. We also have 3 Last Stand. This is another really good card in this deck. So because it's just another negate for spells and traps. If they ever try and activate a spell or trap while you control a magical musket, you can negate the activation and destroy it. So this can negate your opponent's scapegoats. This can negate your opponent's Raigeki, their Cosmic Cyclone. This can negate a lot of those powerful cards. This can negate their Pot of Desires, which is funny because their discard or their cost would still have to activate. They'd still have to banish the 10. So Last Stand, probably the best card in the deck, to be honest. And it can be another win condition. So people originally were like, magical muskets don't have a win condition, but they definitely do. It's just in all of their negates, and that's just what the deck is about. Then we have our 2 Desperado. I see a lot of people running this at 3. I think it's better at 2 because there's a lot of monsters and stuff in the game right now that can't be targeted. So, and that's pretty much what you're gonna want to be using, or at least that's what I usually use it for. But anyways, I like it too. I think it's fine there. And so basically what it just does is while you control a magical musket monster, you can target a face-up card on the field and destroy it. So it's just a spot removal type thing. It is a good card, but I think it's better at 2. Oh, and actually, before I move on, the reason why I think it's better at 2 and not at 3 is because it's not a counter trap, which means that the spell speed is pretty low on the chain, and that means that it can be negated easily by something like strike, and it means that you can't, if like say your opponent activates a strike, you can't activate this in response to it to pop something, or you just can't use this to respond to counter traps, which is annoying. I can't think of the situation where it came up, but it did come up in a duel. I was wishing that it happened, so I cut it down to 2. And then for last but not least, we have the Fiendish Deal. Magical muskets are now protected. by battle and card effects, or no, cannot be destroyed by card effects. They're still vulnerable by battle. But if this card is sent to your graveyard, you can add a magical musket card from your deck to your deck or graveyard to your hand. So for more of the fact that your opponent has to send it to the graveyard, this would be a definite 3 of, just because that search is crazy good, being able to search back from the graveyard. But protecting your magical muskets from effects is really nice, so it's a good one for the deck. Then we have our one Trishula. So how you can do this is with your Ties of the Brethren. If you're just patient, send out your Ash Blossom, your Caspar, and your Dock or Starfire, depending on what your hand is, and then next turn you'll be able to make this guy, and it's a really good card for almost any format. Then we have 2 rank 3s. We have Break Sword. He allows you to detach material and target a card you control and a card your opponent controls and destroy them. So he was sort of Ningirsu before Ningirsu was a thing. Then we also have Mech Beast, Grand Pulse. He can't attack unless it has an Xyz material, and then you can detach a material to target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it. So this is just more destruction removal, and kind of like our 3rd copy of Desperado. And then we also have Baguska. This is just for stalling, keeping control on the board, not letting your opponent gain any advantage, pretty much. Then we have our Utopia line, so Utopia, Ray, and Lightning, just for finishing games. We have Link Spiders for the scapegoats. This is just for when you need effect monsters for Borreload. We have our 2 Mrs. Radiant. This is really good just because it becomes a 1900 beater, and whereas we don't run any earth monsters in the deck, you could potentially get your Link Spiders back, which is kind of a good play. Then we have Akashic Magician because of all the magical muskets, and you can also do this with the Link Spiders as well. So it's a good sort of bounce back for any player who overcommits to their board. Then we have our Borreload Dragon because it can pretty much deal with anything. And of course, Saryuya because it is the best win condition of this format, in my opinion at least. If you can get to that draw 4, you're basically winning that turn. Or not that turn, but you're going to be winning. And then, because you'll be able to use the 3 effect and the 2 effect, so you're going to have a lot of things on board, and it's going to be great. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this deck profile. If you want to check out my side deck, it's right there. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what deck profile you'd like to see me do next time. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think I already said that. But anyways, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time. And as always, have a roaring good day.